was growing up, a lot of parents were getting divorced. My generation was the divorce generation. I mean, just about every goddamn week, parents were getting divorced. The kids who were older than me, right? Their parents were together through thick and thin, no matter how miserable they might have been. But it was my generation, that I saw it. I saw this incredible explosion of divorces during the 1970s, right? And I remember, like I said, not a week went by that somebody's parents hadn't split up. But then a lot of these parents started to get remarried. Yeah, they got remarried, and all of a sudden there'd be like this Brady Bunch thing going on. See? Where there was the wife with her kids and the husband and his kids, and they'd all get together, okay? And it would be like this blended family. They kept using that euphemism instead of calling them step families, which is what they really were, right? Blended families. And it was so, the bullshit, man. The bullshit piled up so fast, you needed wings to stay above it, to quote a great movie. Because like in a lot of these blended families, right, everybody hated each other. Oh yeah. And there was like open warfare going on among the kids. Yeah. And I remember there would be like this classmate of mine who all of a sudden some random kids would show up to the school, and these kids were his step siblings, right? And on more than one occasion, one of the step siblings would be his same age and would be in school with him, in the same class with him, right? And they hated each other. And they tried to avoid each other at all costs. They didn't like each other because they had nothing in common, right? Their parents had gotten together, but they themselves, well, there was nothing going on. They didn't want to be with that step sibling. Oh yeah, and a lot of times there was all kinds of bullying going on. Oh yeah, there were stories I heard of either kids my age being bullied by the older step sibling, or they themselves bullying the younger ones. And it was really atrocious shit that was going on. I mean, real, just beating the ever-living fuck out of the younger step sibling, right? Just because he wasn't anything of yours. He wasn't your blood. His father and mother were different. Your father or your mother had married his father or mother, but you and him, there's nothing going on. There was nothing, no connection, no reason to be loyal. And so they would kick the ever-living shit out of each other. And all of this would happen like underground, right? Nobody would talk about it. But I remember clear as day, a friend of mine, oh man, his name was Kevin, I remember. He showed up to school. I was like in the first grade. The whole side of his face was just purple. Right? And I was like, holy fucking shit, man, what the fuck happened? And he told me his older step siblings had beaten the ever-living fuck out of him just because. And I saw that. And there was also sexual assault going on. Fuck yeah, a lot of sexual assault going on and a lot of rapes going on. Let's not mince words. I mean, I myself never experienced that kind of living situation, thank God, but I heard, because people talk, yeah. And some girl, they joined a step family, a blended family, and get sexually abused like there was no tomorrow by the step siblings. Fuck yeah, that happened. Or else even like pervy and crazy and weird, right? There'd be this weird sexual attraction between the girl from the one family and the guy from the other family that had joined in because their parents had remarried, right? And there'd be like this dual sexual dynamic going on where the parents were fucking, right, and having their relationship with all the ups and downs that entails, and the kids having their own sexual relationship with its own ups and downs. Oh man, it's a fucking nightmare. Yeah, and I remember though that nobody talked about that shit. Yeah, I mean for years, nobody ever talked about this shit. And I saw it. I mean, I saw it with my peers. We'd talk about it and shit. Yeah, we would talk about it, but nobody said a fucking thing. It was like, no, it's not happening. And it was. All kinds of awful shit going on in these blended families. But nobody said fucking shit. That's what red-pilled me about psychology and psychologists and the pop psychology crap that's spouted on TV and the mainstream media, right? Because they never talked about things that were real. They never talked about things that were actually going on. They only talked about like the illusions that they wanted to create. They kept talking about how wonderful a blended family was. And they didn't talk about the dark underside of what was actually going on. They never, ever, ever talked about it. But it was going on all the time. And it was really funny when these blended families got a divorce. That was the corker. I'll tell you that right now. Because when these blended families broke up, right? They never saw each other again. And sometimes, and I remember this, like, I remember when I was like, 12, 13, right? I was living in Miami, and I remember a good friend of mine, he had a really good relationship with his step-siblings, oddly enough, right? I mean, it was fairly unusual. And I remember talking to the kid. I actually have forgotten his name, but I remember the conversation very clearly. We were talking about it, and his parents, his dad and his stepmother had split up. Right? Second divorce for both, right? And his stepmother, whom he had liked, and his step-siblings, whom he had liked, had moved away, and he never saw them again. Yeah, they just gone out into the country. Swallowed by the country, more like it. Yeah, because the United States is a big country, and people move from state to state all the time, pursuing their jobs or their interest or what have you. Yeah. And so what do you think that kid felt, knowing that, the stepmother and step-siblings that he had a good relationship with had just flown away? How do you think it made him feel? What do you think that the effects of that were? Do you think it would have been better if he had never had a step family that would eventually fly away and leave him alone? Do you think that would have been better for him? I don't know about that case in particular, but I can say that in general, blended families don't work. They never have. It's an illusion that divorced people try to sell to their children and most of all to themselves. An illusion that they try to sell so as to convince everybody that it's okay when it's really not. It's a fucking disaster, okay? And all evidence points to it being a disaster. In my own case, my parents got divorced, right? But thank God I didn't have to live with step-siblings, even though both of my parents remarried. But no, thank God that never happened to me. But a lot of other people do. A lot of other people had to suffer through this step-sibling process, and it was misery. Why is it that people don't tell the truth? Why is it that they keep pushing lies instead of confronting reality? Very simple. Because they want the illusion to be real. They don't care about the effect that their actions have on others. Or, no, that's not quite true. They do care. That's why they come up with these lies. Because these lies are to deceive themselves, to distract them from the truth. You see? Because, you see, a blind man can see that a step family with a bunch of step siblings all thrown in together into one house, all kinds of tensions are going to happen. All kinds of awfulness is going to ensue. Abuse, bullying, rape, what have you. You know it's going to happen, okay? But see, if you want something so badly that you're willing to distort reality in order to convince yourselves and at least for a moment convince everybody around you, well, you're willing to tell that lie. You're willing to live that fantasy and talk about the wonders of the blended family. I blame the baby boomers. Fuck yeah. I blame the fucking baby boomers. Yeah, the baby boomers were the best generation at self-deception. That's their prime skill. They can self-deceive like nobody's business, because you can talk about the silent generation and the depression babies and all the generations before. They did not self-deceive. They did not, buy into pretty lies. If they were going to act like bastards, they said, well, I just had to be a bastard. And they lived with that. At least that's more honest. But it's the baby boomers and the subsequent generational, influence that they had that created this notion that you had to fool yourself. Like the notion of blended family as being a good one. Today's video, I think I'm realizing that my thoughts are sort of like disorganized on this topic because I'm really bummed out about the whole Christchurch thing. The whole Christchurch shooting is really weighing on my mind. So I'm going to cut this video here now. And you know something else? I'm going to do another video about the Christchurch thing because that's the thing I really want to talk about. But this stuff about blended families is something that I wanted to talk about for a while. And I hope this was a good discussion, you know. And if it wasn't a good discussion, well, sorry. I guess today, you know, just have a lot on my mind. Sorry.